Hello, everyone, and welcome to another World of Sasquatch. Today's episode is being filmed on Cinco de Mayo, 2024. That's 5/5/24. So, uh, some things usually happen on Cinco de Mayo, which I find very interesting. There are downloads that happen, sometimes over amounts of attacking, sometimes over amounts of pretty much any activity. It's not quite like Halloween. Uh, and you have your Day of the Dead and all these other type of things. So you have all these designated kind of areas that this kind of stuff happens on. None today's no different. So before we begin any discussions, will I now open this circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. So, Joanna?
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, to let healing energies in, to let them love you and nourish you and bring you to your highest good. We pray for ourselves, our friends, our family, and loved ones, to let healing energies in, to let them love you and nourish you and bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agendas, to come in to be able to have this conversation in a peaceful manner that can be understood and by those that are watching it. We ask for malevolence or mischievous beings to be swept away at this time so that there is no big interference at all coming in for this transmission. So with that, and with all of the blessings that we send your way, we say so be it.
Okay, this was more of an impromptu. Well, I should say within the past couple of days, it was impromptu, where there were a couple of things that actually took place. There was a painting that was done. This actually initiated this communication. That somebody we know by the name of Jennifer Stone painted a painting that actually formed a forest person's face. Or at least that's how I saw it anyway, with all the dimensional aspects to it and everything. And that this particular forest person came through in her part of the country. I believe it is Tennessee, and his name is Broston. And he left her message on the Facebook, and he left me a written message here. But also, what happened the night before to my mother, she had a dream of a forest person grabbing her from a roadway where she saw a guy riding a bike. It was just a normal looking thing. Forest person grabbed her, tried to take her into the woods, and she noticed that he had one brown eye and one blue eye. The blue eye meant communication and meant we're keeping one eye on you and protecting you. It's essentially what it is. The guy on the bike may have seemed benign, but it may have been a dreamtime invasion that was not being decoded or encoded right or translating right. It was probably something other than what it appeared. She also picked up a dogman presence on the property as well afterwards, and we were thinking, we came to the consensus it was probably that. This is that's in short what took place. But he left this message. Right here. Let's see. And I can put a link to Facebook as well, where the other one was left as well. So it was, I am Broston. That's like the word Boston, but with an R. I'm Broston of the Forest People, liaison to the Middle East of the United States, between humanity and our people. Dear Jennifer Stone created, unbeknownst to her, a conduit for our people, namely me, to speak through. And it was his face. You can tell it looks like him, like you did for your statues. It was us that influenced this the entire time. He says questions. I said, "Good to meet you, Broston." He is likewise, dear sir. So it was you who influenced the keeping of this new statue, which I made several of them for the conference, and here's one of them right here. Um, and he says, so it was you that influenced the keeping of the statue. Yes, indeed it was. Chris, as did we influence not only the statue for Richie, Richie, if you're listening to this is part of this as well, uh, but for the mass production of those statues. But you knew this, knew that one already, Chris, and said yes, Ross, and I did. I asked him if he wanted to do a show, and this led up to this, so I don't need to read any more of that. But I thought this was actually interesting. If I could give him a look, it's like he has, uh, I would say, he looks rather similar to the statue here from the side a little bit more, and that's how the painting was. It was like from an angle, like this, you know. So what? Like he was eyeing, like what happened with my mother, where he eyed like that with the blue eye, like that. It was the same thing. So what ended up happening? Let's see, what is it you actually look like? Okay, brownish reddish hair, like a blondish brownish reddish. Yes, Isaac, I know blonde and red are of the same thing, same genome. I understand. All right, let me see. And this is why he chose this one, because this one I put Sedona dirt, Red Rock Canyon, and Valley of Fire dirt in it with shungite, and it marbleized inside, like with some black sand we have here, and it marbleized like that inside, and you can see the BBs in there. And I found out the BBs that were in there along that eye, he was also Broston was trying to tell me something about something with my own head, like an attachment or something that was going on with my own head, and arranged that just like he arranged his face on Jennifer's painting. They tend to speak that way and reflect things back, and Shungite does the same, and that happens to be in there. He looks pretty close to the statue. Just his eyes are a little larger, and his face is slightly narrower, but he has a beard like mine. Uh, there was another one by the name of Parlas that we spoke to that looked kind of like a Sasquatch version of a Viking. He's kind of halfway there with like little curls, but also tight hair to the head and everything. And okay, he goes, and I'm big too. All right, all right. And he's talking through this. I wasn't originally going to select any; these were just for the conference, and I just kept hearing, "Hey, hey," and I picked it up, and this is the one I ended up keeping. There's another one similar to it out there. They look all similar. This is the one that Tel Norskus talks through. This is how he looks. So I kept this one. And if the original artist sees these, uh, the fourth people did influence that the molds for this were made. And sometimes some things will pass on to other people to expand it into an area maybe an original artist or someone could not. It's like with Elaine and Vessa's painting. The original artist couldn't expand into another area like the channeling or like the Oedipus creation or the stickers or the magnets and stuff like that that could bring through that energy. But it passes to somebody who can. There was even a Sasquatch by the name of Konaka and his son Poka that actually spoke to somebody, and when that person was unable or unwilling to continue, they usually move on to someone else able to do so. Broston, in this case, we're attracting all the liaisons and all the force people types. They see a conduit that they can talk through, and they will bring through their side of details like Kiosa did for Arizona, and he was the liaison for them. Or the ambassador thereof for both galactics and humans. Uh, let's see, Broston. I keep forgetting his name for some stupid reason, but he just said it's Boston with an R. So it's like okay. Hmm. He said that, and in this, it was also his first time doing a channel like this. But in order for the ambassadorial or liaison job, sometimes it requires that. So weird. Okay. Also weird looking through a statue. Okay. Mm, all right. Mm. With the crystal, that'll lengthen the channel time. Mhm. Ah, yes. This is a very interesting mode of mm, communications. I myself have not done this before. Uh, I am not necessarily an older forest person from their standards. Like dear Fuma, he would be 300 plus years old. Uh, I myself am only 124. So this I'm considered more of a adolescent in this way. I'm an adult, but yes, they find that funny when I say adolescent. But sometimes we get elected these positions in order to learn from these positions, just like in life itself. The position that I hold for, I even joke the Middle East of the country, and from your Tennessee to Kentucky. I've also there's also other forest people that are in the Tennessee area, within those states as well, that speak from some of the back hills and the back wooded areas. They've elected me their mouthpiece, as it were. And you'll find that structure exists all over the country. We do have chieftains in some different areas as well, just like your Sufos for Arizona, uh, et cetera, et cetera. Ours would be my hmm, great grandfather. His name is harder to pronounce for human vocals, so it is the name would actually be not necessarily he. It's a different. It's hard to pronounce. Just say his name is is Nick. We'll just say not in the creepy sense. To nick or to have been nicked, like in your British Isles, they compare it to Satan. No, we'll just say his name is Nick. It's actually a short for a very long, laborious name enunciation, which we'll just shorten it to Nick. And so, in this particular way. So, my job in particular would be to uh, generate a liaison portal or conduit through an artistic means or through a vocal means, such as this artistic through the statues, and no denigration towards the original artist. But the original artist, yes, was channeling our look, but from that point, the look then was turned into artificial art or communication art. And so if this actually holds water for the original person, if he should figure it out. But this is how some of the process works. Somebody will make something, and then someone else will come and make an improvement on it. You've done this with your pieces, but then someone else will come along and then add in even addition to that that is needed to further those types of communications. This is what has happened with that statue, and also with that painting that dear Jennifer Stone created. I was there in that midst with my energy imprint showing my face, very much like if I was posing for a photograph. And that's also how photographs of us would work as well, where you'd see some of our face sticking through, like dear Seymour did in one of his pictures in Arizona, and Fuma when he decided to show his entirety of himself. So I can go into questions if you like.
Well, my first question, of course, because you wanted to do this when all of this contact was made, is that I don't have a list of questions because I was really curious to see, as a liaison, what was the information that you wanted to bring through to talk to humanity about.
Yes, so the communications are quite prolific again. Of course, there are battles going on and wars going on that humans know nothing about. We go head to head not only with the Draco, but other cryptid types. Some fish types, you've known the octopi, garbage before. They are an interdimensional fish-like species. You've actually seen their ships before. They look like giant fluidic jellyfish flying in the skies. They are quite obnoxious because they are very domineering. They're from the old world. They are not a Draco type. There's another type that has awakened from the old Atlantean period, old Lemurian Atlantean period, that are resistant to salt traps, some sigil traps, but they do weaken, like he says, like Superman or Clark Kent, to kryptonite, and they can be more easily dealt with. They have fins instead of horns, and their progeny exist underneath your city of New York. uh, and an old well is more like Mel's Hole, like that particular mythology. They have a king that would resemble a Viking reptilian, but let's just say that your Odin Elf there had his trickery too, where he thought a reptilian was his own wife. So we will not go into him. He can speak for himself. I am just saying in this particular instance, some of these fledglings that he has seen reports of, where people have had to get away with little creature from the Black Lagoon reptilians. Even in your state of North Carolina, there are deposits of these. Even in Virginia, there are deposits of these. They're fledgling reptilians that come out of sewers. They come out of Agartha, and they come out of to basically hunt, like with any fledglings that need food. They depicted this in your Earth Final Conflict, where they had the Atavist taking out homeless people. This is unfortunately a problem in your city of New York. It is an experimental place by which then the fledglings are rampant in certain cycles of the moon, the sun, and stars. Very much like a birthing cycle. Very much like your Hippomilchus is a spider and a crustacean entity that comes out every 200 or 300 years or so. This is where you get your Blair Witch stuff from with the young girl that cursed the town. It was actually a creature that was stealing the children at the time. We do not condone these actions, even if they are of an instinctual matter. These particular three, four different groups are vampiric, but we do not condone their actions. They can always be a workaround found for things such as this. Very much like your Gorn in your Star Trek universe going after people, workarounds can be found. With this, my job in communications in this is to find others that can communicate and communicate our message. We noticed, or my sect noticed that you already were informed already of a channel that you had going specifically for us. Yes, there are others as well that do this, but they do it in more of a conspiratorial report sort of way. And we're not knocking this, but they do it as also a creepy person in the woods kind of reporting, or like a horror movie type of report, or the cannibal in the woods crap like that. No, this is a straightforward us talking, and what I wish to relay is communications from our people have been sparse at times because of wars that go on in the background that you know nothing about. Some of our elders got killed a while back, but we have also replenished some of our numbers. They were trying to influence our young people, very much like the AI was trying to influence your young people, which was depicted in your Picard season 3 with the Borg influencing all the young people. This is what's going on now. The concern we have in this area is you are concerned about conflicts in your country. You're concerned about some of the propaganda that is happening now, some of the from your fake alien visions to your Armageddons to your civil wars to your seed planting of World War III to all of these things. And just know that in the background, we are seeing these things and we are attempting to course correct where we can. We are battling the different factions that are actually planting these seeds, and we are also speaking about it at length. But we also wish to say there are others that say they are channeling our kind that are not. They are channeling either from these aquatic reptilians to Draco to other dogmen factions to varieties of different beings, military posing as us. And also, we also like to say we are blamed for some abductions as well, and we are not doing these things. Now, there are negative Sasquatch, and there are negative, of course, you have your face eaters, trolls, dogmen, and some of those varieties. But um, what I originally came in to state is the communication with us is actually going to reach more of a pinnacle or an apogee because, or an apex because of the fact that we are counterbalancing others that are out there. There was even a story of a young man that woke up in the forest, and one of these fledgling reptilians was chasing him through the forest because he literally cracked a whip in its face. And he got into a truck, and a person said, "You're lucky only you saw the one." this is something that's on the rise. But what is on the downside are some of these older reptilians, some of these older ones, like some of the big Draco foot soldiers and the like. They no longer have their imperial hold. Now, I'm not promoting the fake, oh, the cabal is collapsing timeline, nor am I promoting one that they're always going to be around. I'm just saying the fact that our communications are going to be on the rise. I know the previous set of people like Fuma stated things about the yield. You're going to actually see more and more, unfortunately, of yield communications. This is also why you two have had a hard time sometimes in this area because you do not yield at all. This is to be admired, but it is also to be said that those that do not yield tend to get smaller audiences. But we are aiding wherever we can in this particular type of communication breach.
So just to interject, I find it interesting because over the last few years, one of the things, of course, that Chris and I have been concerned and has been stated is, of course, as a group, your safety, of course. So there must be something in a positive way going on for you to actually come in and have this conversation and to basically make an announcement that there will be more communication being had. That has to be something that you guys really feel comfortable with now.
Yes, we are more comfortable with this because some of the forces that were accosting us in 2020 are not as strong as they were. There are other stronger ones, like your aquatic reptilians. They are a pain in the butt. But in any respect, yes, we get attacked with some of the mouth activities, like with your AI. That's why we asked you not to keep the phone in the office any longer with our communications. It actually hurts. It rings, but it talks and taunts. He nicknamed that particular AI the mouth, but it can also attract other things. The poisons in the air have upped their game, but at the same time, people's immunity is also up their game. Since the time that our people said we were being attacked and some were being killed, like dear Farados, for instance, he was the liaison for Ryan when he was talking about the forest people at that time, and his children and grandchildren are now taking over that tribe in that area. What has happened since that time is we have regained old former strongholds. It's very similar, like in Arizona, when you were talking to your forest people group like Fuma and Seymour and the rest, where they had to move to different areas, like even way out in the middle of nowhere to a falls, no less. That was there in Arizona, where the military and all of them could not get to. That has now changed. They have gone back to some of their more ancestral land areas and not are on. No, Isaac, they do not have reservations about that. Yes. So, in this particular way, ignore the racist joker over there. But anyway, that is a joke in return. But anyway, uh, people have hunted our people less. We have been able to camouflage our dead better. We have been able to camouflage our children better, learning from the experience from 2020 and 2021. Now, with that said, is it completely safe to remain out in the open all the time? No, not at all. The Lyrians can attest to this as well. Oh, this is where I wish to say there are sects of them that I would be careful about. People blanket communication with them, thinking they are a cohesive group. They are not. You have the original from Lyra. You have their descendant lineages here on Earth, but then within those, people think that all of them are bringing in esoteric wisdom just because they are a cat with a large flowing mane, like in one of your romance novels. No, 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 no. I'm not dumping on that group, and also the Antiqua are not dumping on that group because they are wise ancient people. But at the same time, there are groups of them that are performing false channelings. They are even imitating our people and Dogman as well. With that said, I do not. They can speak to this sometime on a show of theirs. But at the same time, I do wish to say also they're the false channelings that are out there of our people.
So it's an interesting thing because, I think we have stated for quite a while now that that you shouldn't look as any race, any particular group as all being one way.
Ours it is included.
Yeah, it's really not like that out there. So that discernment, the building your discernment skill muscle, let's say, to be able to, accept that this feels safe, I'll channel it, but I'm not just going to carte blanchely accept everything that's said. I'll take the information, I'll mull it around, I'll see what I think works for me. But again, that whole message that we've said forever, which is discern the message and not the messenger. And constantly, there's no change in that. This is constant. Let the information, come through. Do not blindly accept it, mull it around, and just let go those things that you really feel aren't going to serve you, and just move on. There's really a lot. You talk about communication. There's so much information out there. I mean, people could spend all of their time listening to information that's coming through and available on the internet and never hear the same thing twice for quite some time. And it's all over the place. There is as much
flooding of the market. Yeah.
Right. There is it's all, if you really try to listen to it all, you're going to find it all, and a lot of it's conflicting. You don't know what to believe, which again, I agree that the flooding of the market and causing that kind of situation is intentional to confuse. It doesn't mean you can't, again, work on your own personal discernment skills to try and tease out the, pieces that are, more accurate, let's say, and less distracting, I guess is a good way to say it. But I find this whole, again, in every aspect of life now, it seems, and again, a lot of people aren't involved in this exploration of channeling, reaching out to what else is around, things like that. Just everyday life, the exact same thing is going on with conflicting information. Is this product that you're ingesting good for you? You'll find just as much information that it's good for you as you'll find that it's bad for you. It's a very interesting dynamic going on, leaving everyone not knowing what to believe. And so it's going to be the same way in all aspects of your life. And so again, working on your own discernment, and of course, bringing your children up to not push away their discernment skills, but to build them, and to, to be able to maneuver, throughout life, I think is very important. But I will say that is something that I personally have noticed in all areas of life, is there seems to be an equal amount of positive and negative with any subject that you want to, dial up.
Oh yes, there are poisons all over the place, both information wise and physical. The information wise, you've encountered this before. A lot of GF propaganda, a lot of like the solar flash or the fake alien invasion or things of that nature. That's part of the yield parameters. Another aspect that was not touched on too much are my own people touched on this quite a while ago, with some of the poisons in the foods and things of that nature. Yes, the GMOs are pretty much rampant in this country. The thing of it is, I would like to tell you that that it is getting better, but it has to hit a crescendo to where the human genome must then come to a point of I did not. No, I'm not saying coming to Jesus point, Isaac. No, but you get what is being said, to where it's like what was said in the movie Lucy, cracking the nucleus. It is essentially the poisons then will clash with what the person truly wants, and at that point, it will then balance, and you will become resistant fully and completely to this. They were programmed to be the Chinese finger trap, to where the body could not form an immunity. It was said by Chuck all those years ago, back in 19, I believe. But post you returning from Washington, I believe, talking about some of the poisoned foods. This has it will reach a crescendo to where it's just like when your special viruses program created the AIDS and HIV virus. At that time, they assumed that it would not backfire on them because they were the master race and all. So they unleashed it on people of color. But it backfired because everyone is equal. In this, it's the same thing. They are trying to unleash it on people they consider lesser than themselves. They are the masters of the universe. Everyone else is not. It is, but the thing of it is, by segregating the genome, they've made themselves more susceptible to certain diseases and more susceptible. It's like he saw in his SSP time, where him and another friend of his had to get rid of plague bodies on Listaria, the planet Listaria, and the Martian Germans were hiding behind their bunkers like this, with their eyes sticking out of a little slit. That was essentially they were taking the plebes, as they would say, or the servants, and having them dispose of all the disease junk. In this particular way, you are also seeing rampant of certain memories. You are seeing things that were always meant to be hidden coming out. You are also seeing the falsity that have been inserted coming out, meaning that in that community, you're going to actually see moles, you're going to see mold plots, and you're going to see legitimate. So this is a time where truth is coming out more. And I know everyone has their own version of that, but there is the truth. There is also ways of interpreting that same truth. Or as you would say, the truth is the truth till a new truth comes along. In these communities, you're going to actually see a ferreting out of any mole type material, and you're going to actually see the ones that want to remain hidden longer, still sticking with the taglines, what he calls taglines, meaning that those communities will have a yield tagline, and that yield tagline will become less and less and less, and then it'll try to reform and learn where that community is going, and these particular corporations will try to stick moles in there based on the new sets of information, even if it's something a change they themselves did not make. They will try to integrate into that. They try to control the narrative, but as you know, but with that community is actually going to snap out of it. But in that snapping out of it phase, you might have some things collapse altogether that were formed on an original foundation of some of the yield formats. Now, I cannot say when this will be. I'm just saying these things are in motion.
So again, it's interesting because I think one of the issues, frustrations probably is a better word, related to some folks within these types of communities is that it's not obviously being done fast enough, and and that in the process, the ones who are trying to push out, maybe more helpful information. I don't, it's kind of hard to say that because we also know what people have been put through to be whomever they are in the position that they are in. And they may be spewing out more false information or more propaganda of how things want to be driven, and they don't even know it themselves. And so we have great empathy, honestly, towards those people that have been put in certain positions and manipulated themselves to be the face of something that maybe if they had the luxury of the totality of the information, they would choose otherwise. So there's everything out there. There's also those that would never change their path because they're happy with what they're doing. They don't mind doing what they're doing, but it's complicated. So again, one of the other things that we say is, of course, listen to everything. But again, you don't want to focus on the messenger. You want to focus on the information and discern it and understand that it really is complicated for a lot of people.
And a lot of these ill messengers are trying to convolute that particular message by hoping people throw the baby out with the bathwater. Now, some do, like with some of your false SSP narrative. type stuff that got included, and the false vendors that came in and then later on said they made the whole thing up. That was just so it would confuse people that were trying to learn about it and confuse the whole thing, and splitting the UFO community in two. People like this, in this particular way. Uh, our communications now will include a lot of this material, because some of our own, not some of our own people, but some people purport to communicate with our own people at conferences and in places such as this. The reason the conversation switched to this is, even while we are speaking now, there are false, uh, let's just say false prophets, as it were, speaking on behalf of our people from north to south, east to west in this country. Even while I'm talking, there's discussions going on right now at the time you are recording this. To include fake reality shows, fake acting, of course, bad acting in some instances, and conflicts with our people. Now, does it get now? Could one argue that it is putting about knowledge of our people out? Yes, but at the same time, there are some yield aspects. Like there is one you have even recently watched where they are purporting to communicate and see our people. They are, in fact, but they are still adhering to yield and network parameters. This is something that people need to understand. Nearly all of these shows do, even the ghost ones. And there's a couple in particular, I won't mention names, that do not yield, ones that he himself are very familiar with, that are not on the air currently because they refused to buckle in that area. And you will start to see this more and more and more in regards to the yield.
So again, which is interesting, because if I've heard you correctly, the yield is really in a process of being enforced, let's just say.
Yes, very heavily enforced.
And so again, a piece of information out there that, it's hard, because, you get torn because you want to get information out there. And, is it so bad if a little bit of yield helps you do it? I mean, I see the
In some
dilemma.
areas it is fine, in some areas it is not. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I see the dilemma. You don't want to be, not true to your own principles, and I get that. But you also don't want the information, a lot of information that is valuable and that people can grow from now, not to get out. So, I see the difficulties, and even the difficulties in very benevolence like yourselves, knowing that in order to, forward this information, there will be some sort of compromise. Maybe that is a better word to use right now, a compromise of information and or omission of information. It is an interesting dynamic if you're going to feel like you need to work within the yield to forward your agenda of getting information out properly. Is there actually, in these, let's just say, agreements that have to be made, can you go the route of only an omission, or are you forced to say things that some of it really isn't right? I mean, how do you guys deal with it?
It's both, actually. Some would choose to omit things to be able to abide by the yield, but now they do heavily enforce making you add in information that goes with that tagline. He likes to call them taglines, very much like headlines or taglines in the newspaper, things of that nature, or hashtags. They will even make you use particular hashtags. Like you'll see the one that's come up the most is Galactic Federation. You're going to see that one come up the most out of above almost all of them. You're also going to see, of course, ours, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, those type of things. Even though we abhor the term Bigfoot, it's forest people, but Sasquatch actually kind of means that anyway. But in this, even though it was Americanized term of an old Inuit term, still, the point I'm trying to make is the terms of the yield will dictate that you add in for a particular terminology. I mean, I suppose disclosure falls under that too, but that is more of a broad concept that is actually a true concept. But they are trying to hijack that word and use it as a tagline too. So there is a tiny bit of yield in there, but it's mostly good. The Galactic Federation type of terminology, they will try to get people to think that all abductions are good, or they're meant more for communication. If you are using the term abduction, how is this good in this way? If you are being abducted, we do not necessarily always abide by that or mind wiping, but at the same time, if somebody has had a reaction to one of our people, we have had to play damage control and actually wipe the memory ourselves. This unfortunately is a common practice with good or bad groups.
Right.
So this is unfortunate. This is an unfortunate. This is where some of the yield comes in, because if we did not, there would be someone worse that would come in there to try to do the deed. There would be someone else that would come in there that would be much worse. So we take care of it, make it look like they're doing it, to see we're doing it because, see, some of these groups are of equal power to ourselves. So there's all these treaties in play. We do not abide by a lot of these. We find workarounds. Valiant Thor likes to say he does it his way, but yes, Isaac, it's more like the Burger King doing it your way kind of thing. Yes, I get it. The joke is getting old, actually, but as you projected quite often in regards to Valiant Thor. But and he's getting kind of sick of it too. But in this particular way, we do things, we're more earth oriented now. We feel we can change these aspects whenever we feel like it. We negotiate with the Galactic Senate periodically on behalf of the earth. You've heard of us talking about that quite often. When we talk about negotiating the blockade, it is more like the psionic chains. If you saw the psionic field that was around the earth, it would look like chains, very much like one of your insiders said, saw posters on series of the earth in chains. That is the psionic field. That is the psionic dampening. We this hurts us to some degree too, and we are trying to get this abolished. So there are aspects that we have to tiptoe around. People suffering would see this as just a capitulation, and this is not true. That is unfair to say that is a capitulation. We capitulate to nothing. This we have our demands, we have our lifestyle, we have our human brothers and sisters that we communicate with, and how we do it is our business. And this is something that the Galactic Senate sees as a wild card. So, but to wrap up the discussion on the yield itself, just know that it is extremely rampant. You're going to see the volume turn up just a hair more before it turns down.
Well, that's interesting to know, and I appreciate the heads up and the honesty, over that. We've always said it's really more complicated than people can actually even begin to imagine how difficult these lines are, to walk that fence line to try and be as true as to yourself as you can, but with a mission of trying to get information out, it's very, very difficult.
Yes.
So,
Oh, one thing I will add, it's like in your movie Jupiter Ascending, where there was that alien battle in the city, and Mila Kunis's character says, "How are you going to hide this?" And it's suddenly repaired immediately, kind of like in Harry Potter, where they do the reparo type of thing. This is what you're up against as well. When you get past a certain point, there are groups that do not want things to be open, or they want things to be open, but on their terms. Even the Tartarian world unity falls under this category. They will do the whole reparo thing, like you saw in Fantastic Beasts, the whole thing where they repair the city and wipe the memory with a chemical. This has actually been done multiple times. Also, the blockade they show in Jupiter Ascending, as again, was the legal arm in reality of the Galactic Senate. Essentially, they don't have a militant arm per se, but it's a legal arm by which then the earth is stamped with a certain boundary. Either stay away or you have to play act in this particular way. Just like he said, an alien could come through, talk on a YouTube and say they are a Pleiadian from wherever. That doesn't always work that way. If they're physically on camera anywhere, they tend to get nailed too, because even though they look exactly the same, there are certain mannerisms and certain looks and certain language differences, let's say, and certain ways of carrying yourself that would be recognized as a pure galactic and not or a human descent lineage galactic rather than a human galactic mix. So so that is actually complicated. To put into context, he was thinking an alien could get on camera, talk on YouTube, and just say they were from such and slow drip the information in. It doesn't work that way. They are seen immediately and they are removed immediately. So that said, any of them that are saying that are aliens that are on camera are either lying, or they are incarnated, or they're being communicated with by the group they claim to be a part of. I just wanted to add that. Yeah.
Thanks. I wanted, this is kind of a sensitive subject. Um, okay, and you can decide whether or not you want to participate in this answer, or we'll get Chris to edit it out. But the question has to do with something that I've seen recently. So we've all, again, when we talk about communication, when we talk about, getting things out there, when we talk about, people think of the regular TV channels, the internet, and then, all of these mechanisms that people communicate. And there were rising defenders, let's say, of information from multiple countries that were basically, involved in a lot of narratives, being the counter, let's say, to what official narratives would be trying to say, trying to, and they'll tout, they're trying to get the truth out. They want you to see the bigger picture, things like that. So there's been multiple people like that gaining in a lot of popularity. Again, I'm always for getting out information, discern what's going on. Something has happened to multiple of these people where they've all now outwardly stated that they have all gone more officially into Christianity. I don't know how you feel about talking about that. It's a pattern that I've noticed, and I, just look at it like, what? Because now they have a huge population of people listening to them, and now they themselves are converting into something, the influencing them to get others to convert into something. I find.
Do you mean the galactics that are calling for more of a Christian voice, or?
Well, I think they're implementing it, if you would say that, through these people. I don't want to say, their names, but they're quite popular. Some were kicked off of news channels and now doing their own thing.
Yes, okay.
Some were,
Yes, they are trying to gear people towards the Christian religion more, because they, some out there, some factions believe that it is more controllable than some of your more militant religions, such as your Muslim. He theorized that they were trying to disseminate down into the one religion so they could get rid of that one religion. That is one point of view, but they are attempting to, and this is more Enlil's work here, trying to get people to backtrack away from some of the spiritual, real spiritual aspects, and backtrack and couple true spiritual aspects with Christianity, and saying this is the firm foundation, when in fact it was a very old trick. You see, backtracking, his mother has noticed this with friends and people as well. Whereas when you think you've run into some trickery here, you backtrack into Christianity. There are famous seers that have done this too, that now poo-poo communications with beings such as myself. He ran into a male version. He also ran into a female version of this that now poo-poos all of this. Both of these people poo-poo this. Say one that used to communicate with our kind as well. So in this way, you'll see a backtrack to Christianity, thinking, oh my God, what have I done? Type of a scenario. What have I got into? Oh my God, I'm so sorry I infected all of you with evil, type of thing. And now going back to Christianity and going back to the nearly witch burning stage of Christianity, defaulting back to an earlier form of it. And you'll start to see this more and more. You'll start to see people couple good values with it, thinking they are the same thing. It's a very old trick. He likes to say it is like the merging of Christ consciousness, the term, with that of people's oversoul or higher self. Basically stating that people were tricked into thinking that calling their higher self Christ consciousness. So they were always entangling to Enlil. So, and that was a trick he did, basically decursing something, disentangling prayer. They all seem to go to him, the God of the Old Testament. This is essentially what is being done, shifting around so Enlil can do his thing, and various other groups can manipulate as well. Corporations, the other Anunnaki lords, you would call them, etc., etc. Even reverting back to old pagan ways as well. This is where Odin comes in. You see, we're trying to get people to go back to earlier pre-Christian ways to get away from the influence of his son, or his adopted son, I should say. But in this particular way, this is what is going on. It's a trickery to involve like wholesome values with that of a being. This is something that you do not want to do. You just become this. You do not necessarily align it with any being. Just say this was said here, but not. That's like also people calling themselves an Anon. They were aligning themselves with QAnon, saying they were resisting the cabal. Yes, resist the cabal with all your last breath, kind of thing. But do not say, "Well, I'm an Anon." It's the same thing.
So, and I think that's important because, again, it seems to be uh, stating what we said in communication, that things are not cut and dry and clear as people would hope they would be by now, that there are, yields involved. And then, as we've said many a time, there can be people that are being allowed to put out a lot of very important information for people to absorb and bring in to say what, some of the things that are really going on in this world. But yet, it seems to me still that what is happening is that when you grab and get an audience, then information and manipulation can start to turn within what's going on to try and influencing again, even because people will continually, want to just discern the messenger only, and then follow a messenger, and understanding that people are not free and clear of all of this yet.
Yes, also think about your negative progressive movement at the moment, the extreme left, being touted, also not wanting to commit to law and order. But now the right is good at this. Like he's always said the religious indoctrination needed to go. He was actually pegging something that he did not count on what he was saying, making the other really horrible with the false flag of the false, the MK Ultra trans garbage that was over here, but then saying, "Oh, this is better. This is more godly, wholesome." What would happen to the good aspects over here? This side would try to erase them. It goes pendulum swing, pendulum swing.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and then what happens over here? He says police state, so they try to go back over here. Eventually, it'll become to a state of oneness and wholeness, but people have to see both sides separate from each other do not work. The Christian side, eventually Christianity won't go away, but it will morph into something that is not connected to Enlil after a while. It will morph into something that is more cohesive to independence after a while. And some people will step away from it altogether and throw the baby out with the bathwater and actually go completely secular, just like what was said in your Doctor Who with a worshiping alien that needed the worship to survive, a cow type being, that their race survived off of people praying to their god. He said this ended, their civilization ended when people went more secular. There was a message being embedded in there, basically saying there was an agenda out there to make humanity completely secular and skeptical. That is not going to happen, mind you, but that was a message of a sect out there that was trying to defeat some of Enlil's and other Anunnaki's worship, and Dark Anunnaki and Dark Orion's worship, by making everybody secular. They were basically telling you what they were trying to do, but that was a sect, though well-intentioned. That will never happen.
Well, that's very interesting. So I appreciate you allowing me to bring that into this conversation, because again, it is a big aspect of, I feel, communication that's out there right now, and the attempts that are going on. So I'm just going to leave it with you. It's been a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad that you and the Force people in general are feeling like there can be more communication. That's wonderful news. And I leave it to you for any last words.
Yes, just know that, you've heard the term things will get worse before they get better. This does not necessarily mean that you co-create a constant cycle of, things will always be this way. This is the way it's always been done around here, or constantly co-creating, getting fired up all the time over something. Do not give in. Do not capitulate to what is going on. It's like the scene he likes to say in Babylon 5 with Londo taking over the Emperorship and the reptilians or Brock controlling him to keep his people fired up. Basically putting him in like an attachment slavery type of situation. Some of those things are happening, but it doesn't mean that you constantly have a constant state of being fired up all the time. This is what is attempting to happen, taking away your ability to think, which was being said, taking away your ability to connect to true spirit by, again, putting false religious idols in place, things of that nature. And I say false religious idol, but that was actually a joke towards Christianity because they were worshiping a cow in the time that commandment was said. So think of any sort of control mechanism that said that we are the way and the light, or we come through us. We know what we're doing, kind of like what Reagan said about the federal government. The scariest thing that could be said was, we are the federal government. We're here to help. It's the same thing. So just know you'll see some more of these things. And I'm not going to sugarcoat. Some things may get worse until you see that you must oppose this, that you must change this. You must become that change. No pun intended in that particular way. You must walk that manifestation. You must enter that timeline that is most conducive. You must change these things. How best to do it, even above the psionic manipulation, the psionic dampening, that it must be so loud that you would change it. Some people will become immune and have become immune to this and have become targeted because they poke their head above that dampening. But do not let that dissuade you from wanting a peaceful world and a peaceful coexistence. And just remember, agree to disagree within elements of arguments, elements of both racial divide and religious and secular divides. So, thank you. All right. Yeah, that was interesting. For some reason, their names get wiped from my head. Broston, it's a frequencies thing. When you can't remember even a simple name like that, it's because the brain isn't able to hold it 100% of the time. It's the frequencies too fast moving and them speaking. I noticed him stammering a little bit. It's because there were some people trying to poke at me a little bit. And they didn't want that type of communication, especially anything to do with the yield, any conversations around the yield or some of these tagline agendas. Somebody gets really uppity out there. So the yield, especially above any of the other current topics we've been talking about. You've already heard the conversation about the yield previous to this. That's probably why the forest people, he even said in his channeling here, Broston did, you got to post the previous episode. And I did. And this seems to be tagging on to that a little bit. So I don't know if you have anything to add,
I hope everyone found this interesting and
Mhm.
something to really think about. And again, all of it with the same purpose, to be able to give you the information that we understand, that we bring through, so that you can help understand the world around you better, so that you can maneuver through it the way you wish.
Yes, and with that, I now close this circle in true benevolence with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now. Okay, apparently my mother had a dream about a Sasquatch I thought was quite interesting. Whereas she was walking towards a sidewalk where she saw somebody riding a bike, and all of a sudden this force person grabbed her and pulled her off into the woods and waited for the guy on the bike to pass. Just a normal guy on a bike, looking, that is. But it was obviously a threat. And he was carrying her off into the woods, and she looked him in the face and saw one brown eye, one blue eye, kind of like a husky. And then basically she saw this eye, meaning we're keeping one eye on you, like protection. But the blue means communication with them. Red means hunting or agitation, and amber or / yellow means caution. They don't do green, that's Lyran, or cat-like. Dogmen will do orangey, fiery,
sometimes yellow, the same as the Draco would. They will do red, and they will do, I believe amber color-ish. Maybe some green tones in there, but they're bioluminescent eyes. But yeah, I thought that was actually quite interesting. And also, she said when she was awake, she spotted a shadowy thing in the corner of the house or corner of the yard near the other person's fence between our room and part of the fence. In this little alcove area, there's like this little dugout area. Obviously, somebody wanted to connect the fence to another old gate that isn't there anymore, or a post that's partially rotted that was there on the neighbor's side, and it was just stuck there. And she asked for the forest people's help, benevolent forest people's help, and she found out it was a dog man. So we've had one after another with a dog man, and I thought that was interesting when that came up. I can put this at the end of the World of Sasquatch, and the next one we happen to do, because I find that interesting, and I have that channel from Broston as well, beforehand, with Jennifer Stone's artwork on Facebook. I find that very, very interesting. I can always link to it, and you can tell me what you think there, or put the image here. But I find that fascinating. So I'm going to leave that here. It is 4:52 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday, May 1st, 2024. Thank you. Well, in this recording, it's going to be slightly different than you were expecting. There's something that needs to be said in a particular paranormal area. I've seen a lot of stuff online lately where people are still promoting the orb as dust scenario. And this actually needs to be said. So this will be a YouTube recording this time. In cases of orbs, there are a multitude of things that are going on. One of which is a negative connotation. You've heard me talk about the light show that some aliens like to perform in graveyards. You've heard me talk about that on various other shows. Well, in this case, I'll describe the physics a little bit. In the case where it is a small spaceship, think of it like the TARDIS, where it's bigger on the inside. You know, I told you they could shrink the outside of it, very much like the Doctor in Doctor Who could shrink the TARDIS. This is what they were saying in an episode of Doctor Who, where the TARDIS was shrunk, where you could see him sticking his hand out the doorway. I don't know the episode name, or I would say it. Where the TARDIS was stuck shrinking and folding it, the outside was folding in on itself. Its hologram was folding in on itself. And he could stick his hand through the door, but the inside was the same size. Always was. This is the way it is with orbs and orbital technology. Whether it's the harvester orbs, whether there's a big blob of black goo in the center, or there's a group of grays and they're looking out, like a picture I have where there's a gray looking back at us from a blue orb. Makes no difference. They can go to the size of a ping pong ball. There could be an entire team of people in there. Be a bunch of aliens in there. Think of it like the TARDIS, Doctor Who, bigger on the inside. This is a form of orb, not dust, paranormal investigators. This is a program that has been instilled in some of you. Yes, skepticism can be a very, very good thing when it is aimed in the right area. Skepticism of the intention of different aliens and entities and beings. Not necessarily skepticism of whether something exists. And this is definitely not dust. These things can actually, truth be told, they can go to the size below a ping pong ball, but it is actually slightly harder to do the pin light thing. When you shine light on them, though, they look like they're bigger, but they've actually not changed size. They're actually bent light. Some of them are, like spook lights. They're actually bent light and forced light, is what I should say. They're forced light,
that are solid. In some cases, they're mechanical, of course, like the harvester spheres, but there's a photonic light involved that is solid. And even as I'm talking now, there are beings trying to take this out of my head. In this, because I begin to understand the physics behind this holography. In some cases, it is holograms, like in some ghost cases. It is holograms, folks. Not all of them, but the whole thing with the lady in white, lady in red, lady in black, either hologram or alien activity. And this is another area that I wish to get into. This follows with orbs. I will go back to another section here in a minute, but I wanted to get through the alien portion of this first. There was a case I saw a show about where it was in a haunted inn, and somebody just happened to wake up when there was an orb like skimming over the top of them, like a red orb skimming over the top of them, reddish orange like fire, and then it disappeared, and they fell back to sleep. Then they went down the next day into the bar area of this haunted inn. It was a purported haunted inn, and there was this guy at the bar that was later to be discovered as not having ever worked there, or even identifiable to the employees that worked there. They said, "We don't know this person." Well, this person proceeded to say, "Oh, that room you were staying in was the suicide room. A woman committed suicide in there." Just kept plugging the ghost legend. And not that there aren't ghosts. I'm not saying that. What was actually going on was this man woke up during either an abduction sequence or was having his DNA or energy taken. He happened to wake up because people are becoming resilient to this. He wasn't woken up by these aliens because they're very strict on keeping people asleep. He woke up because his soul woke him up. And his body is becoming immune to these things, just like I'm becoming immune to certain paralysis fields because it happens so much. Well, this man plugging, "Oh, it's a suicide room. A woman committed suicide." Well, what caused her to commit suicide? Whether even if it happened at all. Well, promoting the legend because the aliens did not want to be discovered. You see, in any of these places where there's haunted buildings, haunted mansions, haunted streets, haunted areas, in a lot of these cases, it's aliens. And some people see orbs surrounding, or spook lights surrounding roads, neighborhoods, haunted houses. A lot of these locations, this man was more than likely in the very alien or a member of the alien race that caused the orb to begin with. Trying to plug the ghost to throw the man off, knowing he would not figure out that it was aliens. I saw that immediately when I saw this. Well, in that case, it was more likely a group of aliens that was close by trying to examine people that were going into the quote-unquote haunted hotel. Where better to get DNA samples than in a building where people frequent? Malls, hotels, airports, national parks, where there are scanning equipment nearby, like Grand Canyon National Park, there is something there. Anything with scanning equipment nearby, or anything that has a legend surrounding it. Expect an alien group that is dicking around. Now, to the good side of orbs that are associated with forest people and elementals, fairies, Sasquatch, and other elemental groups. They also have orbs around them. Some people could argue the Sasquatch have grays watching over them because they abduct people, like David Paulides likes to say. No, they have made it quite clear to me that that information is incorrect. And they are very adamant. You know they're coming from their heart space when they're saying it. And they even wanted me to say this even now associated with this. At no time, unless they are being controlled and rotted, which is very, very rare, has any abduction been associated with them. These cave sites that are being marked on the map of where people are disappearing and also in the national parks are associated with military, Orion, Draco, and other aliens. Some people think, oh, the orbs are getting people fascinated with it so they can be abducted, very much like what I was just saying about the haunted hotel, where an orb was actually taking genetic material and it was a possible alien abduction scenario. That's the darker side of orbs. Lighter side, Sasquatch, elementals, not involved in abduction experiences at all. Trolls, yes. Face eaters, most certainly. Controlled beings, rotted beings, yes. Sasquatch in their normal state, no. Elementals in their normal state, absolutely not. Elementals in their corrupted state, yeah, I can see it. Or controlled by Orions, yes, absolutely. But I'm being told even now, not them. They want to plug not them for abductions. But orbs also can be electromagnetic activity from the Earth as well. Some people spot them culminating around electrical bleeds in homes. There's two reasons for this. One, it's the electromagnetism that looks almost like a flare if you get it on a piece of equipment. It looks almost like a flare coming from the ceiling or wherever the electrical bleed is, but these orbs are attracted to it. Paranormal activity is attracted to it. Even those tiny spaceships are attracted to it because they're refueling in some fashion. From an electrical bleed, it can also open a portal to some of these beings. So people got to be careful about electrical bleeds in their home. These orbs can culminate around a being to make them visible, drawing in electromagnetic activity. This is another form of orb. None of these things that I've spoken about are dust. None of these things. Now, can nanites exist as dust particles? You betcha. And can they actually harm in the very same way as harvester orbs? You bet. Can nanites be gray like dust? You bet they can. But they're not always there. You can tell if they're in water because they sparkle. They look like fizz. Some of them are in some of these quote-unquote healing springs. The true healing water from Agartha is like an aqua blue, kind of like the water in the Bahamas or Hawaii. Uh, Dust particles that are actually nanites. Some of them are on the photonic level, some of them are physical. And these smaller dust particle ones are gray color, like dust, but they're not all over the place. They're not everywhere. Do they drop them in chemtrails? Yes. Do they get them out of fracking from the old pieces of Maldeck that have fused with Earth? Yes. You've heard us speaking about that. But, again, are these elemental? No. The elemental orbs are also other Sasquatch as well. Think about this. Yes, they do fade in and out of frequency, but they also have molecular cellular solid abilities that they've cultivated quite well. And this is why people see Sasquatch faces looking out of orbs. Also, do Sasquatches get seen on spaceships? Yes, they do. And can those spaceships do the same thing as the harvester orbs? Bigger on the inside? Yes. They take the form of clouds. They can do any of that. There's several races that use the orbital technology. The main ones, of course, are the Orions, also known as the Greys. But many other races use spheroid technology because it is the most efficient shape to do what they need to do with on a quantum level. It is the most efficient. It is spheroid, very much like spherical or quantum thinking is. This is why it is used. Think of also seeing these beings' faces through these orbs is like looking on the reverse end of binoculars, looking big end to small end. Think of it like that when you're trying to peer into those physics, when your brain is trying to comprehend what it's looking at. Think of it like that you're actually looking at something that's closer, that's further away, and something that's bigger on the inside, when it's actually a dimension within a dimension. And I want to see if they have anything further to add on this, the elementals. Yes, I mentioned fairies and uh, any of the orbs that also some. Oh, and also there's a double side to this: orbs in the woods, Sasquatch, but also beings that are trying to lead you, basically like a carrot and a stick, into a cave to either get near draconian forces, military forces, Orion forces. Also, people that have been abducted on the side of the road, you'll see folded clothes. This is an alien abduction, folks. Those people more than likely saw lights in the woods, and for whatever reason, they took all their clothes off and ran into the woods. And this person's more likely either dead, abducted, or in slavery somewhere. Again, not associated with Sasquatch. It's different alien groups that want to abduct people, mainly the Greys and Orions, and some military groups. Those cave sites are on top of a giant network of bases. Just like you've heard of abducted people ending up in the Dulce base in New Mexico. Sometimes some even groups will want some genetics and want people down there. Do I agree with the abduction? No. And the Sasquatch wanted me to point out some of them too. I'm not throwing the Ebens under the bus. They have been very kind, just as kind as the forest people. But as they've pointed out, there are negative versions of them, and also some other people pointed out that they themselves are trying to learn certain emotions and certain um, uh, not necessarily ethical codes, but certain ways of being and understanding. They're trying to gain codexes. I'm not condoning abduction, but that's what happens. And the forest people are very glad that I included that. But before I get too far off track, I want to conclude this. Paranormal investigators that are listening to this, you have to look more into the orb subject. No matter what side of the fence it ends up on, you have to look more into this. It's a program that you do not. It's a program that you consider it dust and inconsequential, that you don't consider it proof. Well, the beings that are putting out are consider it proof enough because they're using it. Military, you don't, or the mainstream scientific community, you don't have to prove a thing to them because they already know and they're covering it up. They already know. You don't have to prove a thing to the mainstream scientific community. Go with your heart space. Go with your logic. Go where the evidence takes you. Go where the soul leads you. Again, orbs, not dust. Those, in some cases, are nanites. But the real thing, do not discount this. It is probably one of the most important pieces of evidence towards the alien and towards the elemental that you will ever find. You have to look into this more, and you have to trust some of your psychics that are around you that are saying these things are happening. That is if they're saying that these things are happening. Sometimes they don't know. But both sides must work together in this subject, scientific and spiritual. This is the only way the science will advance enough for you to see this is alien technology. And this is also elemental. Don't discount that. Don't just search for ghosts, which, again, freeing ghosts helps everything. Knowing the history helps everything. It's great. It's fantastic. Don't just focus on it. Fuse all of these things together. They are one tapestry. One tapestry. Magic, science, spiritualism, mysticism, all of it. Psychic activity, mediumships, all of it. Trench working, all of it. All one. It is all one. We are all one. Thank you for listening, everybody. It is 8:42 a.m., 8:43 a.m. on February the 5th, 2020. Thank you.